again, Monday morning. Happy Labor Day. Just want to recognize all of the hard workers in the United States and beyond for the things that you do every single day. I hope you get to enjoy your day today. And of course, maybe join us today or at a later time to listen back to our great conversations about leadership. And I welcome today Maura Delehanty. She is a longtime friend. Although we have not chatted lately, we certainly have an interesting background taking us all the way back when we were a little younger, 2003, 2004, when I joined the Stat Flight medevac helicopter out of Westchester Medical Center, where Maura at that time was the chief nurse. And we had shared some great times together, including some times, of course, facing some uncertain moments with our patients, which, to which and bond and his strength is really developed. Maura has since been in multiple roles as a healthcare executive, and I asked her to take us on a journey in a couple of minutes. And now, as you can see, is enjoying the sunshine in Naples, Florida. We would love to hear from you more. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey up to this point in time. And again, welcome for joining us today on our Monday morning chat about leadership. Oh, we cannot hear you. No, not yet. No, not yet. And we all tested it out too, so it was working. And you're not on mute on my side. You want to dial out and dial back in and see if that works? Okay. I'll keep everybody entertained for in the meantime. So we can always expect have to expect technical issues. That gives me a reminder quick that our new Leadership Academy is starting on September 21st. If you're interested in joining or having your team members join, just send me a quick email at thedutchmentor@gmail.com. It's a great opportunity to create hope and opportunity. It's a great opportunity to reduce your turnover rate. I cannot overemphasize that the turnover rate is a hidden cost on your budget. Could cost $50,000, $60,000 in overtime expenses, retraining expenses, recruitment expenses. Our academy at $3,000, $4,000 per unit is far less expensive than it is about incurring this overtime cost and this additional stress on the healthcare system. All right, I think Maura is back. Let's see. We have an audio with her this time. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me, Walter?
Yes, sounds perfect. Excellent. All right, well, let's transition back again to the focus of the topic. And Maura, take it away. Tell
Okay.
us about your journey.
Again, Walter, thank you so much for hosting me, and it's great to see you in live. And yes, we have a big history going back all the way to Stat Flight at Westchester Medical Center, which was, and I do consider it the crown jewel of my history of work. I thank you for that experience too. So interesting, Walter. And I started with an associate's degree in nursing, right, and went right to work as a registered. Along my journey, one of the leaders, tapped me on the shoulder and said, you really, and I was hesitant, I didn't want to go back to school. I had two, but I heard her, and I think I started to read and learn and understand what was the way of the future, and I was going to need that, especially if I, had a leader in the future. And so for the next 7 years, I took, course and went on to get my bachelor's. And then I stayed for one more year and did an accelerator in organizational leadership. And the reason I chose the organizational leadership to cross all disciplines, and the cohort I was in actually had people from all industries. And this helped me to learn that I could cross all those disciplines, not just be tied to healthcare, although healthcare is my true love. So it's been quite the journey. And I took on leadership for them, and many of them were because departments or teams were underperforming or basically broken. And I had that ability to and get everybody to kind of row in the same direction, tying up the mission and vision and why are we here and why did we get in healthcare, and really remember the patients and our clients, often are at their worst possible moment when we to provide that extraordinary care and show kindness and caring. I always said, let's back into healthcare, and that's kind of been my motto. I just like to inspire excellence and really let people see their potential and carry that out to provide that.
Yeah, I thank you for that telling us on the journey. I think that taking a step back is, and for myself doing it's really important because I work with a lot of younger people, right, 25, 35-year-olds who are still trying to figure out what it is that they want to do in life. And we ask the question, what is your big dream? They struggle with that. But I think there's a lot of emphasis today on them get my bachelor's or get my master's. I said, well, slow down a little bit. Getting experience is really important along the way. Getting a deep understanding of what it is that you feel truly passionate about and getting really good at it by doing it two, three, four, 5 times. I too, I have my associates and actually not even that. This is a certification as a paramedic, and I didn't go back to school until I was 35. And then because at that time I knew what I really wanted, so I was able to focus and laser in on what it is that I wanted to accomplish in a short period of time as I continue to grow my career in healthcare itself. So it's a really important message to everybody. It is never too late, right? There's a right time to do things, and sometimes you want to be a mom and see your kids grow up. And but don't lose track. If you have a big dream, whenever your time is, you can get refocused and be able to do the things that are so very important to you. And going back to school is one of those things, and continuously learning in different environmental settings is really, really important. So
That
one thing is you talk about healthcare. So crew resource management is something that we learned early on in the helicopter. The importance of communication from silent cockpit when you are taking off or when you are landing to how we communicate as a team, how we make sure that we always have that mission driven, clear understanding of what the outcome is. How how do you take that type of learning as a nurse in a critical care environment, working with crew members of a pilot and another paramedic? How have you taken that and translate that into a story of inspiring other leaders to understand the importance of working as one?
it's a great question, Walter, and many aha moments, if you will, in healthcare and in leadership came from our training management. That was my first experience with doing that team building and really being that you were able to speak up, even though people had even though they were the pilot and you knew nothing about flying, but you could speak or you had a concern about something and you weren't going, to be, for bringing to the forefront. I think those were some of the critical lessons, in my in leadership. And so, of course, as you're translating that to newer people, as you're talking about, they often have to have an experience to be. But I find that the stories of, I was one of the ones that was on a man, we were flying on stat flight. So taking that story and just, and, understanding that, we had to have silence in the cockpit. And yes, I was petrified, but I went right back to my training, right? Light suit. I made sure my helmet was on tight, right? I tucked in everything in my pockets and, possibilities were. And so when you're building that team, you want to kind of back on your training, right? And that we always have to lean back on those lessons, what others that have gone before us have learned and do share with us. So do use time in trying to share how important it is to be on a team at ability to share things even when your heart is pounding and you're lining this up, but it's in my gut and I just have to say it. And I've been wrong a few times and put down for that because it's about the way that you bring it forward and the tone. Those were things that truly I learned on stat flight. In fact, our chief flight nurse at the said to me one time before I was even, in leadership, she said, "You edge off. A lot more people would follow you." And, it's just one of those moments in your, and I was able to hear her that day. And that actually changed the trigship delivery moving forward. So all those experiences come into play with others.
Yeah, it's funny is that sometimes the best learning we do in critical moments of failure, right, is when we are not doing our best work, but somebody has a clear enough mind after the fact to say, "Hey, step back for a second. What just took place, right?" And I teach the E plus R equals O is that when we talk about events are going to happen in life, it is how we respond to those types of events that are going to really determine the outcome. And learning to not react, and reacting comes from the lower brain, right? That fight for flight type, out of the gut, say immediately without any thought. But if we take just a little bit of time, even nanoseconds, because in medicine we sometimes only have nanoseconds to kind of process what it is that we want to deliver, it allows us to be reflective and likely have a better outcome. Of course, part of leadership we teach too is having reflective feedback, asking the question after the fact, how well did I do? What can I improve? Having that awareness around your blind area, your blind spots, in order to learn to elevate, right? It is learning and continuously growing as in different types of scenarios. So what is your teaching philosophy that you took out of medicine, out of being a healthcare executive, and when you became a coach to others, and really you were a coach as a flight nurse, as you were an executive, and then you took it into your own world. What is your teaching philosophy?
My philosophy is that I don't know everything. I am here to meet you with hold space for what my person's challenges are, and I don't set the goals for anybody. I feel like I'm an accountability coach, right? I decide where you're going and then help you get there, and we work on that together. I know more or have more or anything, but together we're really more powerful. I can empower and encourage and lift you up because you may not, like I've had, and just sharing that often helps people get to where they're going. I think my big philosophy is that I don't know everything, and I also feel I am working with, and I'm still learning every day, which has been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I think that fits right into what we call leading with confident humility, right? It is that none of us have all of the answers, but I think you hit the nail on the head about being an accountability buddy. Is that we know, and that's one of the things that I harp on a lot. Is that we if you want new results, you have to take new actions, and you have to go through this transformational process of change, which is a very difficult thing to do for a lot of people, right? It is because habitually speaking, we do things once or twice, and if it is not normal at that point in time, we tend to go back to the thing we always have done. And to get people to go through that process of change takes time. And having that accountability person that you can meet with on daily, weekly, monthly basis in order to get sustainable change is where the magic takes place, right? That's when you really can deliver those new results for yourself. So if you have, as a new nurse coming into, and again, I know you coach people from different industries, but let's just, for argument's sake, say the nurse coming in that has, not only great clinical insight and a good strong education, but has some real interest in becoming a team leader and a nurse manager, and maybe even go beyond that in the future. What would you tell them? As they come into the industry itself, and how to get established, and how to approach their big dream.
I like to tell people to find a couple of people that you admire, and you know follow them, watch them, listen to the language that they're using, and behave in the circle and when we're at the table, and then try and pick a mentor for you, and say yes when you are tapped on a broken project, or even to do the staffing grid, right? Is to meet all the people on the team and find out what people's likes and dislikes are in the mix. So I often like to give that task away to somebody who isn't about leadership, because when I was tapped, actually, I was like, who, me? To the night shift.
Hmm.
I came in, I did my job, I didn't, get involved. I was raised this like tunnel vision. And then I was like, well, let me think about that. Opened the door for me. So often we're not even thinking of it ourselves, and us. That is inherent leadership, I call it.
Hmm.
And we can often, if we have some of these little guiding lights and tools to take us along the way. And then along the way, people show up for us too. And you're like, oh my God, I love what to say. Before I actually understood and became a leader, I in all of the things that I didn't like about what leaders were doing, and people disrespectfully or in front of others to call them out on things. And if I was a leader, I would never do that. Or if I ever become a leader, I will never talk to any. And so, yes, it was about mentorship, but it was also about pulling in those pieces that I wanted to be sure were not part of my recipe moving forward. I wanted to be empowering, encouraging, and we spend a lot of time at work, and we cannot not just survive, but we have to thrive.
Yeah. It is. It's funny that I also kept a list of things not to do, and one of the interesting exchange I've ever had with a senior HR leader, who I certainly did not see eye to eye with. That I asked my team for a 360 feedback. I asked them, being there after 6 months. So, tell me what my strengths are. What are my blind spots? What can I do more or better? How do I come across? What is, again, there's a real me and there's a perceived me. Well, we
Right.
have to learn to manage our perceived me rather than our real me. And so by asking the question, I was called to her office. Says, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm asking my team members what they think. I would like to hear from them. It is really important for me to stay in touch with them. He says, what do you care what they say? You're the boss. I said, well, that's not my philosophy of leadership, right? It is leading with EQ, like it or not. For me, is what leadership is about, right? It's really that leading with confident humility. That it sounds like you have very similar philosophies. Who is your
Yes.
if you have somebody in your industry that you looked up to, who it doesn't have to be a person in the real world, or it could be an author, or who do you really admire as somebody that you say I emulate some of my work after that particular person?
Who pops right into my head is Quint Studer. I
Yeah.
don't know if you were out and he made a presentation to us. It was way back, and ever since, about his empathy, that spoke to me, and I have been following, reading his books and his philosophies, and I I just um, gives gracefully and gratefully to the community of.
Yeah, I agree. Quintus certainly, I follow him always on, and we have some dialogue
Yeah.
back and forth. Um, One of the funny things about Quinn Studer's company is that if you hire him, he preserves the right to fire you as the client. That if he does not feel that the senior leadership is bought into the philosophy, that he does not feel that he can advance the team below to the extent that to bring in that EQ type leadership and really the deep caring, focus on quality and safety and all the other things, that he has the option to walk away from that. And that's something left to be said, right? And somebody who who's willing to walk away for money because he wants to
Yes.
preserve, what he deeply believes in, and I think that is really, really ideal. So thank you for sharing that. What is your favorite lesson to teach? When you work with with a student, what is your favorite topic?
Topic of performance evaluations, because I was petrified. I really did not know how to do, and to something we were speaking of earlier, before is we're often great technical, skilled, is right. We are at the peak of our career as far as taking care of patients. They say, oh, you'll now be the manager of this unit, but we have been provided leadership, management, that sort of training. And so for me, when I took over my first emergency department, I went, in the for my people, the folders were empty. The people had worked there for 15 and 20 years, and in the next 4 months that the performance evals were due. And I used to like saying, oh God, please help me. What am I going to say? I don't know how to do this. I did I figured out that, oh, I have to find the two things everybody's doing, those out first, and then say, oh, moving forward, here's where I that we can work on so that we're all going to be rowing in the same direction. Walter, when I got it took so much pressure off of a performance evaluation for me. I use the performance eval all year as goal driving with people. It's not just that once a year thing where we just check the boxes. And often when I've taken over newer departments, they're like, I've always gotten fives. I can't believe you gave me a five. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you have to be honest and give options where you saw what you're describing to them. And I would say, well, I don't when I got here, and here's why. Your peers are coming to me with this. You're not following scripting, whatever those tasks were. And more concrete, it made it into a conversation for personal growth and development. And I wasn't, feeling bad about it. And sure enough, over time, a couple of years, we were able to build that solid
Yeah.
team working on those opportunities. Feel that is a sore point or a gap, if you will, in leadership. Nobody likes to do those performance evals, but I've actually came full circle, actually like them now, and I'd love to bring them back to matching the mission, and it all just makes sense, and you can tie it back to everybody's pocketbook as well and what makes sense. So it's telling the story so that everybody can be on board.
Yeah. So interesting enough, if people ask me the question, what is the one thing you would say to joint commissioners should do away with? I said that's the requirement for having performance evaluations, because they're really not worth the paper that's written on. But for the simple fact that it is an annual exercise to meet joint commission standard rather than
Yes.
doing anything. So I stopped using the word performance evaluations and I started using the word individual development plans. So an individual development plan is exactly what you explained, but
Yeah.
it is owned by the employee instead of owned by the manager. So you own your own IDP, and you come to me as often as you need to in order to work on your personal development. And in that, you have goal setting. In that, you can have measurement of on a scorecard, so you can track and trend on how well you're doing. It also puts the onus on the employee. If you want to go up in the organization, then you need to own this living document and move forward on it. And I'm still hopeful that someday the hospitals will change. I will say that, interesting enough, I find healthcare very different behavior-wise than technology or banking or laboratory, where I spent 4 years of my life. Is that talent review is an overlooked entity in healthcare.
Mhm.
They don't spend enough time doing a box 9 or a talent review to really understand where is my talent, where is my high performance and high potential. And that leads to unnecessary turnover, because if you don't activate your high potentials
Right.
and in a meaningful way, they will find a place where they will. So on that note, I think we have a couple of minutes left before we can do the closing talk, or the closing statement, so to speak. Is that um, we know that healthcare is losing more people than we are supplying right now, which is causing a real crunch. What is that one thing that you would tell people, leaders today, to focus on to prevent burnout, or prevent people from getting disengaged and leaving. But what should they do different? And it's not another ice cream social.
Right. No, it's not. It's showing your people and empowering them to do their best. And I feel like self-care as a leader so that your staff can see how important to build resilience in this under these conditions right now and coming out. If we don't take care of ourselves first, we cannot take care of all the plate, but it is a platter and it is overflowing. And so we have to show our people that they actually matter, and we have to demonstrate they can actually follow us. It can't just be words. We've got to walk the talk and say the words.
Yeah.
I really feel that is the bottom line for me.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more. I think we need to take a different approach. I call it creating hope and opportunity. It is that if you don't
Yeah.
provide hope and you don't provide opportunity, people are going to leave you, and
Yeah.
people have choices today. It is, and I cannot blame them. Right? You can't just ask them to do more, 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 and not think about the
Right.
bigger picture itself. So, all right, with the last minute left before I will wrap it up, is it where can people find you?
Delehanty.com. I have a website and you can contact me there. I provide opportunities and coaching and a couple of annual healing retreats. And so reach out. Walter, it's been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for reaching.
It is more, and I think that it's safe to say that everybody can find you on LinkedIn as well, Maura Delehanty, and then from there you can find your website as I've checked it out as well. More, we had the opportunity of saving lives, literally, very little ones. There's 25, 30 weekers and neonates picking up in small community hospitals to taking care of trauma and other geriatric. We made a difference one patient at a time, and I think that part of the privilege of now being a mentor or coach to other leaders and especially emerging leaders. Through them, we can have a great impact on probably hundreds, if not thousands, of lives on how they receive care, how they are, how they are led, and how they are inspired to go forward. So again, thank you for joining me this morning. Enjoy the beautiful weather in Naples, Florida. I hope to come join you in the sun for a very short period of time because I'm really more of a cold weather person, a warm weather person. But nonetheless, I look forward to that. Thank you for joining me this morning, and I look forward to stay in touch. If I can ever be of any help and assistance, by all means, call out. And to the audience, thank you again for joining us today. If you are interested, you can go to my website at thedutchmentor.com. We have our next Leadership Academy starting on September 21st. It's an awesome way to creating hope and opportunity for your team members. And it is, we owe it to the next generation. We got to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful week. We'll see you again next week with a new speaker and a new opportunity. Take care and happy Labor Day. Take care,
Thanks.
Mar.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.